there! Welcome to the Lantern, and today we'll be looking at the idea of tilting. Now, what is tilting exactly? Tilting is essentially just when you get very upset in a specific event that happens within a match. It can show by either you raging directly, feeling hopeless about the situation, or just kind of giving up about what the outcome could be. There are many things that can cause tilt, specifically in League of Legends. Some of those include OP champions appearing on the enemy team, such as that tank echo top, feeling like you lost without being outplayed. Stat check or face roll champions are key for this one. Think Katarina, Riven, Yasuo, Zed, all people get tilted when they lose to those champions. There is also the poor performance of teammates, whether or not it was actually in their control. Most people will become upset when they see that first blood from their bot lane. And then there is also AFKs and trolls. Those two are the ones that cause the most tilt simply because there is absolutely nothing you can do to control it. And this leads on to the next point, which is going to be talking about the psychological factors that actually is the reason to why tilting occurs. The biggest one, in my opinion, is the concept of fairness. It's a concept that is there within all humans. It's even been investigated on infants as young as 2 years old, and it's been shown that if one infant has less of an item than another one, he will actually become upset and want to have the same amount as the other infant. It's a general concept that lives within all people, and it shows even in League of Legends. Easiest factor is that AFK again. It's a 4v5, so of course you feel as if you have the disadvantage and there is no fairness within the match. You become upset. Now, another thing that affects this is something known as the negativity bias. Negativity bias is essentially when you focus on the negative outcomes rather than the positive ones, making you think that only negatives occur. It is really related to the concept of fairness, in that you will think that there is more negative outcomes towards you specifically, giving you the idea that there is no fairness within the game itself. And finally, there is frustration towards yourself. This is more common in the higher levels of play because people up there really want to improve. They focus on improvements, and when they perform bad and can't figure out how to improve, they simply get frustrated at their own bad play. Now, there are many ways to avoid tilting, and there are two forms: short term and long term. Short term I'll be talking about first, and that is trying to get rid of the tilt in the game that you are currently in, to make it so that you can give yourself a higher chance of winning, even if the actual situation is not in your favor. Now, this won't give you a higher chance of winning, as in you'll have over a 50% chance, but it will bring you closer to that even 50-50 split. Some of these great short-term methods include don't antagonize what is causing the tilt. By this I mean, don't talk about what is making you tilt, and do not focus on it at all. If you do have a person who is AFK on your team, do not mention in chat, and do not try to blame the game solely on that AFK player. It will ruin the experience and will add to a potential negativity bias, since it will be on your mind for the next game. In addition, you can also have a distraction. This can include music, friends, anything that can keep your mind off of the negative things around you. For me, I personally use music. I love to have very hyphy music that helps keep my mind focused and intent on the game itself. One very popular song that has come up on Twitch recently is one known as Brain Power. If you just go ahead and take a listen to it, you can tell how energetic this song is, and how it can make so many people playing just focused on their gameplay and show a vast difference in skill level. Another method can also just be to avoid raging in real life. Now, this one is often said to actually be something to help people when it comes to avoiding tilting their allies. Yes, not typing in the game does help avoid not tilting your allies, but it also adds to tilting yourself, since you are both vocalizing and hearing your own voice talk about what is causing you to tilt and rage about it. You are fixating on that issue and simply adding to the negativity bias, since it is fresh in your mind and you are thinking that, oh, that negative is so common. And then the final thing for a short-term goal would be to squeeze a stress ball or a stuffed animal during a death, since, as we all know, death timers in League of Legends are quite long right now. So it gives you plenty of time just to try and squeeze and hug that stress away. Yes, it sounds silly, especially if you're some big burly man and I'm telling you to hug a teddy bear, but it actually works. Because some of that could also be laying out your energy from the anger. That is where a stress ball could be a little more accessible for a big muscular man like, let's say, Draven to use. But it helps. So keep that in mind. Now let's move on to long term. When I say long term goals, I'm talking about making it so that the tilt does not last with you for more than one game or an entire day. There are a ton of easy ways to do this, but I'm going to only touch on the more impactful ones. One of the most impactful long term methods is to record whenever there is a moment of negativity that happens to the enemy team. By this I mean, instead of you getting the AFK on your team, I'm talking about the enemy getting an AFK on their team. Or when your team picks up that overpowered echo in the top lane. That is something that is beneficial to you and gives your team the advantage, making it unfair for the enemy. And when you record that, you'll have a list right next to you that will be very easy to look at, in which you can just realize, hey, I actually have it where it's about equal amounts of I get an AFK or the enemy gets an AFK. So it's actually not unfair against me whenever something bad happens. It's an equal chance. And it will make it so that you can also more easily ignore those games where something unfair occurs, because you can just think to yourself, well, the enemy's got an AFK so much, they'll probably get one eventually, and it'll balance things out. And in our situation, which is very nice to try and aim for, is to put on a mindset of whenever something good or bad happens, think to yourself, what could I have done better to make the outcome more beneficial towards me and my team? This will help you keep on a mindset that will avoid thinking of your allies and the enemies, making it less likely for you to tilt, since you are not focused on anything that is out of your own control, and usually it is out of control experiences that cause a person to tilt in the first place. Finally, just take a break in between your games, especially when you are on a high from a win or a low from a loss. Because when someone is on an extreme of the emotional scale, you will be far more susceptible to having a drastic shift along that scale. And this can lead to an extreme amount of tilt, or a shift from a very high to an incredible low in a matter of seconds. Thank you to everyone who is watching this video. I hope this helps all of you in your future goals of improving in League of Legends. As always, if you enjoyed the video, leave a comment and a like, and I will see you on the Rift.